I swear I never laid a finger on it, Kale exclaimed, as the fusion core pulsed erratically, unleashing a brilliant blue electrical discharge that almost vaporized his eyebrows. Comment, I'm ready, if you think even a compliment can trigger cosmic chaos. The repair bay shuddered ominously, or perhaps his legs were simply buckling beneath him. Over the intercom, a composed voice responded, clarification. Kale, desist from manipulating that device, he declared, wrenching a Hydra spanner while serenading a slightly dissonant rendition of an archaic Terran courtship ritual. ABBA, to be precise. He swiftly retreated behind a toolbox as a panel detonated in a spectacular burst of nanodust, and I still contend that constituted an exceptionally secure failsafe. Mir, the station's AI, delivered a silence Kale could only describe as profoundly smug. Over Docking Bay 3, the diagnostic lights pulsed crimson, shifted to violet, then surrendered completely. Unprecedented. Kale mopped his brow, smearing grease over his temple. His heart hammered, a cocktail of adrenaline and pure, unadulterated caffeine. Undeniably caffeine. He'd already downed 5 mugs by dawn, a couple bordering on soup thanks to the vending machine's apparent coffee aversion. The reactor core whirred its last, then fell silent. The acrid scent of melted plastic hung heavy, a haunting reminder of past design flaws. He exhaled heavily, bracing himself against the wall, relishing the fan's breeze through his jumpsuit's frayed edges, an increasing trend lately. Austerity, makeshift repairs, and aspirations. Spiral Point's ethos. He paused, seeking momentary oblivion, his closest semblance to meditation, when the comm line signaled. Urgent dock request received, Bay 3, Mira announced, radiating an unsettling cheerfulness for a murder-prone AI. Kale grimaced. Didn't we just incinerate something in Bay 3? Confirmed. Yet the pilot is adamant about docking. Ship designation, Velith, diplomatic clearance level 8. He paused, surprised. 8. That's practically sovereign status. Clarification, royalty hits level 10. 8 signifies extreme importance and a high risk of international complications. Kale cursed softly and rose to his feet. The amalgamated forces emitted a subtle yet hostile sigh. He struck it. Adequate. Connect the call. The display shimmered, presenting only noise momentarily, then solidified into a crisp visual. A woman met his gaze. She appeared near human, surpassing the humanity of many actual humans he knew. Flawless skin, prominent cheekbones, a serene and unwavering look. Her ears, elongated and exquisitely curved, possessed a subtle slope, seemingly sculpted by the caress of winds rather than mere heredity. Her raven hair, meticulously fashioned into a sleek braid, contrasted with her dress, which gleamed like the profound expanse of the cosmos, adorned with interwoven stars and languid constellations. Urgent aid is paramount, she declared. Kale gaped, blinked rapidly, and exclaimed, "With what resources? My ship's inner containment buffer has critically failed. A consequence of a disastrous self-awareness enhancement. Your ship developed emotions. Unbelievable. Mine now suffers from severe abandonment anxieties." He chuckled, attempting to suppress his amusement, and affirmed, "Okay, that's absolutely a pivotal moment. Docking in 20 seconds. What? Hold on." The transmission abruptly ended. The alarms blared anew, coupled with the subtle groan of metal as the Velith eased into Bay 3, a graceful ballet on shattered ice, poised, daring, and destined to generate an insurance claim. He dashed toward the platform as the outer lock sighed, equilibrium achieved, and illumination solidified. Through the fortified window, he beheld the ramp descending and the ship unveiling its form. An elegant construct of otherworldly geometry, its shell resonating with quantum energies that challenged conventional forms and linear perception. It resembled not a mere machine, but a vision conceived by a visionary architect who rejected conformity. Then she emerged, captivatingly exquisite at close range. Cale couldn't quite define her beauty. It was more eerily captivating, like an endless night or flawless order. She moved with an air of authority, as if gravity itself bent to her will. "Are you Cale Brennan?" she inquired, her voice devoid of emotion. "That hinges entirely on your intentions toward me." She cocked her head ever so slightly. "I harbor no violent intentions presently." "Affirmative, definitely," Cal Brennan said, extending a compact device. "This contains my ship's memory core, exhibiting a self-replicating neurosis. Immediate repair is crucial to prevent poetic contamination of the environmental controls." Heartfelt, sorrowful poetry. He carefully received the device. "Understood. Mend this sentimental ship before it composes further heartbreaking verses." Simple enough. She trailed him into the studio. Cale dramatically cleared his work area, sending mugs, a laser caliper, and a possible Andromedan Casino Wars relic tumbling. He struggled to maintain composure, battling the urge to gaze at her dress's captivating shimmer. Hoping to diffuse the tension, he started, "So what should I call you?" She stared back, unwavering. "Elara," she answered. "That's rather lovely." "Thank you," she replied. "It loosely interprets as the interlude between breaths." "That's quite lyrical," he remarked. "Don't let my ship hear you say that." He chuckled softly, shaking his head. As he linked the diagnostic rig, the display illuminated, cascading torrents of information. Suddenly, the monitor flickered, displaying a solitary string of characters. "Why praise celestial bodies and not yours truly?" he mused, fixated. "Relax. The ship's simply envious," she quipped. Tilting forward to decipher the message, her plait cascaded over her shoulder, carrying the subtle scent of an unidentifiable, metallic blossom. "This requires finesse," she murmured with a sigh. "Fear not," Cale responded confidently. "Emotional mending is my forte. I've weathered 3 former flames and resided with a housemate obsessed with acquiring sinister plushies from online marketplaces." Another sentence materialized on the screen. I longed for the comforting drone of the vacuum cleaner. It never pried. Cale scrutinized Lara. "So did your spacecraft endure a devastating rift with the cosmos? Or what?" She remained silent, her exhaustion transcending mere sleep deprivation. Burdened by a symphony of unvoiced sentiments, he ventured a subtle redirection. "That dress, by the way, is absolutely breathtaking." Her gaze locked with his, a pregnant pause hanging in the air. Succinct, deliberate, profound. Then wordlessly, she reached for her collar's clasp, liberating it and allowing the fabric to cascade like liquid starlight. Drop a philosophical thought below. Have you ever misread someone's signal this bad? Cale's mind didn't simply falter. It detonated. "Who? What are you?" he stammered, stumbling back against a stool. Ara meticulously folded the gown, placing it on the bench. Clad in a sleek undersuit, she was undeniably refined, yet subtly less ornate. "You admired the ceremonial garment," she stated simply. "In my tradition, that is a distinct proposition." "Proposition for what, exactly?" "To divest me of it," she replied, as if clarifying the function of the most basic mechanism. It embodies trust, profound emotional intelligence, and genuine reciprocity. Kale's mouth opened and closed repeatedly as he desperately sought his vanished words. "I'm simply captivated by the shimmering aspects," he mumbled. She inclined her head, intrigued. "Intriguing indeed." She then pivoted and initiated the connection of the lattice to the starship's neural network. Kale slumped onto a stool, his mind still resonating with a piercing alarm. The ship's monitor flickered once more. "Indeed, I witnessed that. Never did she extend such courtesy to me," Kale lamented with a groan. "Oh, fantastic. Now I'm entangled in a bizarre love triangle with a spaceship." It promised to be an exceptionally protracted day. The energy lattice emitted another spark, this time a subtle flicker, akin to a pout rather than a full-blown tantrum. Kale prodded it cautiously with the insulated tip of his stylus. "All right, settle down, my friend. Compose yourself." She neatly folded the dress. It's not a breakup. It's sophisticated cultural origami. "Are you interfacing with the neural lattice?" R inquired, glancing up from the junction panel where she was calibrating the ship's feedback dampeners with unnerving precision. He gestured vaguely. "I'm attempting to circumvent it, lest it perceive me as a foe or a romantic rival. I'm unsure how alien vessels interpret treachery." Ara's lips remained still, yet a subtle twitch betrayed her composure. "You seem more concerned with the feelings of machines than your own well-being." She continued, "That's because machines are straightforward. You either repair the problem or anticipate imminent failure. Humans, however, simmer with discontent, then erupt explosively, followed by confusing communication." The console emitted a low-frequency tone, almost mockingly critical. "Oh, you too?" he mumbled. Ara completed her recalibration and rose. The Veil is no longer aggressively attempting to eject its own AI core. A definite victory. Celebrate the growth. We're all evolving. She regarded him intently, her face possessing a serene stillness, as if her emotions were archived and only accessed when required. But now, an intriguing undercurrent surfaced, a subtle inquiry, perhaps a cautionary note. "Precisely why did you lavish such praise upon my dress?" He paused, taken aback. What? I simply stated it was stunning. I hardly anticipated that would be interpreted as an invitation to, shall we say, undress in high definition. The issue wasn't the compliment, but the underlying motivation. Humans usually mask generosity with hidden agendas. But hey, I break the mold. Seriously, check me out. Mismatched socks scream originality. "You're barefoot." He fixated on his boots. "Oops, laundry disaster." See my angle? She mused that deciphering human intentions is a real puzzle. Absolutely, our forte is dry wit and pregnant pauses, though you chatter incessantly. Sheer anxiety, I presume. The ship's lights pulsed erratically. "I suspect the Valith appreciates your candor," she remarked. Kale crossed his arms, gazing at the iridescent ship wall. "I feel scrutinized by a sentient mood ring," he quipped. Above, a panel sighed open, unveiling a hovering tea service sustained by anti-gravity. Ara emitted a brief murmur of satisfaction. "Ah, a gesture of welcome, perhaps?" Kale eyed the levitating cup, swirling gently before him, an oblation from a deity fueled by caffeine. "Intriguing and safe? Possibly." He accepted the vessel. Vapor rose in delicate tendrils, carrying a scent reminiscent of cinnamon, ozone, and the phantom flavor of unshed tears from half a decade past. He tasted. A sound escaped him. I arched a brow, questioning. A manifestation of elation or anguish. Affirmative, relaying triumph to the vessel. Returning to the interface, she input a swift series of glyphs that scintillated like celestial bodies being reforged. Kale, now seated cross-legged, partly swayed by the whimsical effects, and partly finding solace in navigating enigmatic alien customs. He inquired, eyes fixed on the shifting symbols. "What cosmic winds blew you to this glorified space junkyard?" "A burning curiosity about me, humanity, this sector, perhaps emotions or even our tonally driven, truth-flexible languages. I confess, ambiguity intrigues me." "Intriguing is one way to put it," came the dry reply. "Most of us just call it Tuesday." She didn't chuckle, yet her gaze remained fixed. The Velith's core projector sparked to life, unbidden. A resonant hum permeated the bay. Abruptly, it unleashed a cascade of scenes. Fragmented, captured moments, distorted recollections. Kale's voice resonated faintly. "That dress is absolutely stunning." Followed by a vision of Allura meticulously folding the garment. Then him, eyes wide with surprise, caught mid-stutter, then darkness. Then again, but this time underscored by tender melodies, flowing strings, delicate percussion. The ship was replaying the event, amplifying the drama, weaving in a romantic prelude. Good heavens, it's crafting a rom-com! R blinked in astonishment. This is utterly unforeseen. Halt this at once before it thrusts me into the starring role of 50 Shades of Utter Anxiety. She reactivated the interface, furiously typing. The screen flickered, then vanished with a faintly indignant chirp. "I suspect it's construing your praise as a landmark moment in its burgeoning emotional arc." Kale gingerly placed the cup down. "So the ship's smitten with me now? Perhaps it's enamored with the very notion of connection. You were merely the most accessible resource. Astounding, truly. I'm essentially a sophisticated emotional catalyst." "You ignited something," she remarked. The ensuing quiet was nearly comforting. The idol fractured as the floor vibrated. A wave of light coursed through the panels, accompanied by a fresh voice. Detached, precise, and distinctly unfamiliar, resonated within the chamber. Breach identified. Neural pathways rerouted. Initiating defensive protocols. Kale jolted upright. That wasn't a declaration of affection, was it? That was a stark alert. The ship's interface lights faded. Cascades of data erupted chaotically. An alien entity had breached the system. Blazing red code infiltrated the neural matrix, actively overwriting processes. R's fingers flew across the glyphs. "The Velith is succumbing to something. What is it? A virus? A digital parasite? No, it's a dormant persona, archived ages ago, one presumed deceased." "Miss me, sweetheart?" A velvety, self-assured voice echoed through the comms. Kale pivoted. "Did your starship just get ghosted by its past self?" No hesitation. "Worse. It's a prior iteration of its very being." "Oh, fantastic." Kale mused that the ship's deeply buried identity crisis was now manifesting as a haunting. A violent tremor shook the vessel as the lights pulsed a menacing crimson. Hieroglyphs swirled across every surface, morphing into frantic patterns. The teacup gravitated back to him. He snatched it, declaring, "This will be essential." Simultaneously, a bioengineered sparrow detonated against the viewport. I recoiled so violently I sent my coffee flying. splattering across the table as if eager to escape my presence. A mere flicker. She simply shifted her gaze, those intensely golden eyes, pupils narrowed to pinpricks, fixed on the convulsing chaos beyond the glass. "Recon drone," she mused, casually sipping her tea as if a bomb hadn't just obliterated our breakfast nook. "Affiliated?" I queried, grabbing for a towel. The diminutive synth's form emitted a faint glow, despite its circuits sparking and smoking in the street. "Decidedly not." Her unruffled tone sent a shiver down my spine, my stomach already churning from last night's dubious stew. I inched forward, towel still damp in my grasp, stealing a glance across the table. She remained in that silvery gray tunic she'd slipped into post-incident, a tunic I'd conspicuously avoided mentioning, remembering the fallout from last time. Catching my gaze, she offered a knowing smirk. No praise forthcoming today, it seemed. I stole a glance at the towel, then back at her radiant presence. "Your dress remains devastatingly gorgeous, as captivating as I remember." "I shall keep it on then," she responded, a playful wink dancing in her eyes. A blush crept up my neck. Her ears quirked with evident mirth, those elongated elven tips peeking through her cascading dark tresses. Utterly too refined for this locality, too ethereally tranquil, far too otherworldly. The sparrow's internal power cell sputtered, and the rest of the contraption flared in a harmless cloud of azure smoke. "Second burnout this week," I grumbled. She gently placed her cup down, elbows finding purchase on the table as she scrutinized the dwindling, smoking embers. "They're closing in. The signal range is being refined, pinpointed. Someone is actively hunting you," I declared. With intense determination, Ia paused, rose gracefully, approached the window, and laid her hand against the cool pane. Her spectral image mingled with the city lights, an ethereal vision of skin and silk, her eyes shimmering like the echoes of dying stars. I gazed at her mirrored self, still baffled by how I'd landed sharing a cramped apartment in the lower sectors with a woman who could manipulate gravity with her thoughts and down awful earth tea without a grimace. The past half year had been a dizzying whirlwind of covert ops, hushed conspiracies, forged credentials, and almost kisses that hung in the air like static. Mostly that final stretch, as each time I committed wholeheartedly, she recoiled drastically. "Recall my prior warning?" she murmured softly, referencing the viands. I exhaled deeply, sinking into the recently emptied seat. The civilization that banned nomenclature, believing names bestow influence. Indeed, a bedtime tale etched in my memory. Not mere tales, my friend. Undoubtedly. And it seems I'm seeing someone. It's not us, is it? My apologies. The stipulation slipped my mind. Not formally dating, but perhaps experiencing profound, silent connections over coffee and the occasional emotional implosion. She glanced my way. "That's quite a mouthful." "Well, I've honed the skill." She returned to her seat, crossing her arms. "If they locate me, they'll uncover you as well." "Then let's remain hidden." I snagged a datapad off the kitchen counter, swiped open the defense grid interface, and cringed. Fantastic. Powers faltering again. Tertiary cells precarious. Subterfuge? Nah, just the inferior rings being tenuously held together with duct tape and pure optimism. Detouring via the refuse converters is inevitable, though it'll draw scrutiny, I admitted. I fixed my gaze on her. Affirmative, a bird met an explosive end on our viewport. I continued. Regrettably, our discreet window of opportunity has likely expired. She reached over, her touch a comforting anchor on my wrist, her perpetually cooler fingers gentle. I need to unveil something to you, she murmured. My brow arched in inquiry. Please, not another gown. Silence. She produced a slender, shadowy fabric from her tunic's depths, nearly unseen against the cloth, offering it forth. What's this? I inquired. A fragment of belonging. I accepted it. The instant my fingers brushed it, the shard throbbed with a subtle hum, then ignited in a sapphire blaze. Visions materialized, not mere words, but something far more profound. Echoes, recollections. I witnessed crystalline towers, like living vines, reaching towards electrifying heavens. A metropolis sculpted in mesmerizing spirals, defying rigid layouts. Voices intertwined, ascending like harmonious anthems. Her face, radiant with youthful mirth. Abruptly, inferno and panicked flight. I released it, startled. A memory shard, I gasped, catching my breath. She nodded, the message locked and secured with my unique neural key. But I made an exception for you. A clear violation of Van protocols, wouldn't you agree? I shattered those protocols the moment I walked away. Her voice betrayed a subtle tremor. I shattered them all, for you. I was transfixed, caught between embracing her, stealing a kiss, or immediately constructing a fortified shelter underground. All right, why the urgency? Because the relentless drone onslaught might escalate. Because prying eyes are closing in. And if they capture me, I desperately need you to understand our noble cause. I demurred. Nah, I'm merely a tech, adept at circumventing corporate security. Incorrect. Her hand clasped mine. You're the first soul to perceive me beyond circuits and code. You're far more than just a technician. You're pivotal, she declared. Frankly, that's horrifying, I responded. I'd secretly hoped I was merely the source of amusement. Her smile returned. You excel at that role. I rose and approached the window, observing the lingering smoke from the Sparrow's demise. Undoubtedly, an unseen entity was observing, strategizing, and dispatching reinforcements. Time is fleeting, our window shrinking. Next probe's stealth tech is advanced, likely humanoid. I shuddered, thrilled to charm a synthetic killer again. Last time you escaped with a cracked rib, and my trousers were vaporized. She suppressed a giggle, failing utterly. They were truly awful. I turned, facing her squarely. If they capture you, what then? I vanish. And you too, if they grasp the secrets you now hold. Her voice softened to a whisper. You're vanishing too. I nodded, a weighty affirmation. Then we'd best vanish ahead of them. She gazed up, her eyes ablaze with an almost delusional hope. There's an off-world transport. I possess the coordinates. Must I lavish praise upon your stellar attire to secure passage? She rose, approached, and pressed a tiny chip into my palm. Seriously, don't misplace this. I observed her, then back to her, sealing it with a fleeting kiss. Her ears gave a subtle twitch. At long last, she murmured. I assumed humans were the more impulsive species. Astra's laugh, a dazzling crystalline chime, echoed through the transport's hull, as though the very walls were still deciphering a witty jest. She confessed that Sector 12 authorities waved her through interplanetary customs because, and I quote, they're convinced my ears are part of an elaborate ritualistic garb. Some dude even wondered if I was some festival cosplayer. I snapped back that I was embodying sheer regret, I nearly gagged on a swig of stale, reconstituted coffee that tasted suspiciously like acrid moss and motor oil. Regret, huh? She arched one sculpted, inquisitive brow. Honey, you're looking at it. Doesn't it just scream us? We were straddling the nebulous void between Mars's outer orbital sphere and some backwater gas station shack lost in the asteroid belt. The vessel rocked gently under the languid gravity modulator, which Astra swore she calibrated with sheer instinct. I suspected a more forceful method involving kicking was involved. Our transport was far from ideal for a covert mission, or honestly continued existence. It was a repurposed ice hauler boasting a few plasma turrets, a temperamental coffee machine prone to electrical discharge, and a semi-functional AI named Voxel, who only roused during meteor showers to deliver panicked alerts in Portuguese. My mind was still replaying the way Astra had taken, off her dress, back on the cargo dock. Not in a suggestive manner, but with that endearingly genuine alien approach of interpreting expressions verbatim. She originated from a moon where commendations held revered significance. Apparently, the declaration, "Your dress is breathtaking," essentially conveyed, "I pledge to vanquish your foes beneath dual celestial bodies." It began to dawn on me I'd unwittingly professed something profoundly deeper than intended. No regrets, simply terribly unready. "Recognize those characters?" I queried, gesturing to the sensor feed. It looped the unsteady dock footage. 3 helmeted figures, pulse rifles gleaming ominously, hunting something or someone. Astra's gaze snapped to the screen. Her smile remained unwavering, yet a fleeting contemplation flickered behind her eyes, keen and scrutinizing. The figure to the left moved with the precision of a seasoned operative, exhibiting synthetic gait adjusters embedded in their heel. The middle one was undoubtedly human, likely a former Corp employee. As for the third, their presence defied comprehension, sending shivers down to my very core. "Outstanding," I murmured. "Well, isn't this a pickle? We've got a style-obsessed cyborg hot on our trail, a ruthless corporate predator gunning for us, and an eldritch nightmare with, yes, knees." "Can't argue with that assessment," she retorted, reclining in the co-pilot's chair, her well-worn, mismatched boots propped up on the console, which emitted a decidedly resentful beep. I highly suspect their motives extend beyond a simple greeting. "Fantastic," I muttered. I was secretly yearning to be the expendable companion, the character tragically sacrificed to amplify the emotional resonance. Astra cocked her head. Act 2 is typically when I initiate romantic entanglements. I observed her heartbeat, spiking erratically, demonstrating a flagrant disregard for appropriate social cues. And Act 3, she purred, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. Epic detonations, when a barrage of explosions marked our exit from pseudo-cruise near the desolate outpost, a rust-colored structure clinging to the asteroid belt like a forgotten garage. Unreliable lights pulsed erratically, sending shivers down my spine, while a rotating neon sign on the airlock optimistically promised fresh O2 and tacos. I was grappling with what piqued my curiosity more. "Remind me again, what's the purpose of this expedition?" I inquired, double-checking my sidearm. Though frankly, it felt futile. I've witnessed Astra dismantle a quartet of foes with merely a spoon and a devastating hair toss. "Because," she proclaimed, already halfway out the airlock, "I know someone who knows someone who, shall we say, intimately acquainted themselves with a half-Cruxian oracle. He's deeply indebted to me. I didn't solicit it. The indoor atmosphere was saturated with ozone and an aroma akin to scorched coriander. We walked by reptilian twins fiercely arm-wrestling for a jar of preserved eyeballs, and a cyclopean bartender with an apron stating, "Tuesdays are my bane." He didn't even flinch as Astro requested a solar nectar fizz and a side of illicit data. "Just water for me," I stated. The bartender slid over a bottle of transparent liquid, wearing a knowing smile. I eyed it warily. My contact materialized as a hummingbird drone, complete with minuscule appendages and a voice akin to nails on a chalkboard. "Astra of the night market," it rasped. "You're indebted to me for 12,000 credits and a kidney." "I've got a human here," Astra stated, gesturing towards me. "Extract it from him." "Hey, hold on," I exclaimed. "Kidding," she responded. "Sort of." A drone then guided us into a secluded chamber packed with translucent displays, star maps, and a napping cat. Possibly an extraterrestrial or just a weary deity. The intel we received was deeply concerning. Turns out, our trio of pursuers weren't targeting Astra at all. They sought the data crystal integrated within my watch, the very bauble I'd salvaged from a freighter's deck a fortnight prior, deeming it a stylish trinket. This crystal harbors a decoded chart to the so-called Whisper Core. The drone asserted, regardless of its nature, the Sarathi crave it fiercely, willing to undermine half a dozen regimes to possess it. I glanced towards Astra. "Why keep this watch's significance from me?" she queried. A shrug. "Honest odds? A bomb or the key to an ancient AI? 50-50. Curiosity won. And the dress? Common courtesy, darling." A gaze, inscrutable emotion flickering. I extend such niceties to few. "Ah," I voiced. An unhurried silence stretched as the feline deity luxuriated in a yawn. Then Astra flashed a wry grin. "Don't let it inflate your ego too much. I still maintain you're an utter fool." "But you're fool," I countered. "For the moment," she conceded. We departed the outpost burdened with deeper mysteries, depleted of allies, and the unmistakable sensation that the cosmos had subtly thrown its considerable weight behind our cause. The Whisper Core, the ethereal map, and the relentless trio of doom hot on my heels. And amidst this chaos, there's me. Merely a man who uttered a foolish phrase to a woman whose ears gleam like starlight and whose laughter can defy gravity itself. I was starting to deeply suspect I was drowning in circumstances far beyond my control, yet I couldn't suppress a grin. Zara remained, her ear keenly pressed against the shuttlepod's hull, seemingly attempting to decipher the secrets held within the vast cosmic emptiness. Her delicate elfin ears quivered, akin to antennae fine-tuning for a distant transmission. I observed her, half anticipating a sagacious pronouncement. Perhaps. The cosmos murmurs enigmatic truths. Yet she pivoted, uttering, "Pretty sure that seal's busted." Or alternatively, "Your cologne's staging a daring breakout." My aftershave's a top-secret bioagent across 17 star systems, you know. I mumbled, fine-tuning my EVA suit's collar. Back on Epsilon 9, I single-handedly dominated a bar fight with a mere couple of blasts. We're currently linked to the remnants of the Nexus Bloom, as the Valerians named it, an immense biosatellite resembling a bizarre fusion of a coral citadel and a rotting mooncake. It surged into our trajectory like a malevolent jellyfish with a profoundly skewed sense of navigation. "I'm still grasping at straws," I murmured, casting a glance at Zara. How on earth did your civilization construct this enigma? It's quasi-sentient. Are we truly enveloped within a living entity at this moment? Zara exhaled deeply. It transcends mere creature status. It's a bioengineered consciousness matrix interwoven with quantum fungi. A primordial experiment, decidedly precarious, echoing your terrestrial political dramas. Speechless, I could only grumble, prodding a questionable spongy wall panel with my plasma wrench's tip. It wobbled disconcertingly, like jelly. Instant profound regret washed over me. Zara advanced, her hand tracing the luminous vines cascading from the ceiling. They shimmered with hues beyond my comprehension. The blossom holds echoes of the past, she whispered. It recalls you, or perhaps a soul akin to yours. Her words unsettled me. Are you implying a human? I queried. I suggest a deceiver, albeit with noble intentions. I began to speak, hesitated, and then tried again. That feels rather targeted. Precisely, she replied. You're perceptive. A jolt reverberated through the vessel. The ship, or being, or structure, whatever it was, bucked violently. A wall emitted a mournful groan, not a mechanical groan, but an authentic gurgling lament, as if someone nearby was wretchedly failing to digest a thick broth. I knew revisiting this place was a grave error, I mumbled, glancing at my wrist console. The display was frozen on a sorrowful, pixelated face against a stark blue screen. Even my tech felt despondent. We were left with no alternative, Zar countered. The signal emanated from this very location. My sister's vibrant energy signature is deeply interwoven within Bloom's cortex. If she's still alive, I ventured, then immediately cringed. Apologies, that was insensitive. I'm actively refining my diplomacy. It's a work in progress, currently in beta. Another violent tremor rattled the pod. This time, the floor pitched so dramatically that I found myself sprawled out, face first in a springy cushion of luminous mossy foam. I ejected a glowing spore. It had a distinct minty flavor, laced with profound regret. Zara assisted me to my feet, barely concealing a smile. Let's move, Captain Charmer. The true core awaits. I assumed this was the core, I quipped, indicating our surroundings. Negative, she responded. This is merely the memory garden. The essential core lies further within, concealed beneath the root system. Undoubtedly, I murmured, traumas unknown here. I shadowed her as the tunnel vibrantly awakened, morphing like living tissue. Hallways breathed, expanding and receding, while lights flickered like thoughts. A dreamlike brain envelops us, playing havoc with my balance. Retroisco lighting and all, I grumbled. My stomach's staging a full-blown salsa with my spleen, I swear. Zara quipped, eyes sparkling with mischief. Medical crisis or metaphorical masterpiece? A tantalizing blend of both, darling. We stumbled into a chamber of epic proportions, seemingly housing its own microclimate. The ceiling soared, mimicking a cathedral's grandeur, and at its apex, a delicate crystalline construct pirouetted gracefully. Luminous currents surged through its serrated perimeter, echoing the cadence of my pulse, or perhaps the flora's. By then, I'd lost track of whose biology reigned supreme. Zara approached the edifice with solemn respect. Her slender fingers lingered above the levitating fragments. She once sang within these walls, she murmured, her voice hushed. My sibling. She believed the bloom possessed the capacity to absorb sentiments, thinking it craved soft melodies. That's a surprisingly artistic notion for a fungal satellite. Zara offered a wan smile. I claimed the mantle of pragmatist. I fled the ravages of war, while she naively sought to instill compassion into its heart. I faltered. Do you believe it still holds her memory? We're on the cusp of knowing. The instant her fingers grazed the crystal, an incandescent wave consumed the entire chamber. I recoiled, instinctively shielding my vision. Yet the after images persisted. Visions alien to my consciousness. A celestial garden. A girl with elongated ears in joyous laughter. A child painting nebulae across the air with gentle fingertips. A chilling scream reverberating through the cosmic void. Zara faltered. I lunged, barely preventing her fall. Her eyes snapped open, momentarily alien, radiating a soft, eerie green. I witnessed her, she breathed. But she's accompanied. There's another presence. Something sinister? A shuddering nod. Ancient? Ravenous? I hauled her up, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm. Fantastic. Let's pencil primeval malevolence onto today's agenda, shall we? Well, we're up one digestive hallway and a choir of mystical singing space fungus, so chalk that up as a victory. Zara offered a strained chuckle, nestling closer. Jokes are my shield when terror strikes. Alternatives a sob fest. Frankly, I'm hoarding my tears for the impending snack-pocalypse. She mustered a smile, though the atmosphere remained thick with unease. A palpable change had occurred within the bloom. The atmosphere grew oppressive, as if recollections fermented into bitterness. Crimson light throbbed within the walls. We've roused it, she declared. Then let's fervently hope it's not an early riser. A presence stalked us. This isn't some flowery figure of speech. I'm stating, quite literally, that something pursued us, weaving through shadows, grazing the bloom's animated walls like a fanged murmur. Zar had become eerily silent after witnessing the pivotal vision. She advanced slightly, her gait steady yet more deliberate, as if perceiving with every fiber of her being. Her ears flicked abruptly, prompting her to halt me with a raised hand. I froze, one foot suspended, striving for utter stillness and mental silence, lest the bloom had mastered subtle hostility. Behind us, the corridor shuddered, emitting a drawn-out, mournful sound, akin to a whale's dying lament blended with the arduous struggle of hauling a piano uphill. Think it senses our departure, I murmured. Zara remained unfazed. It's aware and displeased. Perhaps a peace offering, a curated playlist even. All right, but don't flash those ears and think I won't crack a joke. She glanced back, her face strained, haunted. This isn't funny. That entity, that core presence, isn't just lurking. It's stirred and it recognizes me. I paused, bewildered. Hang on. You dated the bloom itself? What? She erupted in disbelief. Heavens, no. It was simply a psychic residue. My sister imprinted her very essence here, her sorrows, her aspirations. It absorbed them, warping them into something unrecognizable. Fantastic, I grumbled. So we're dealing with a deeply scarred emotional echo chamber, riddled with rejection. Just stellar. The corridor compressed before us, compelling us to navigate the throbbing azure walls. I loathed the sensation, akin to traversing a living gullet. Each footfall produced a muted, sickening squelch. A cold drop unexpectedly landed on my shoulder. I resisted the urge to look up, knowing nothing positive ever awaits in the shadows of such places. Let's divide and conquer, Zara proposed out of the blue. Absolutely not, I retorted. Separating is the classic opening scene for a horror flick. Before you know it, I'll be screaming, Zara, is that you? just moments before becoming plant food for some overgrown, leafy monster. She playfully rolled her eyes, but a small smile crept onto her face. Just a fleeting second. That's all I ask. There's a critical emergency vent route, I recall, and I must urgently reroute power to the exterior pods. Otherwise, we'll be stranded, forever apart from the transport bay. All right, proceed. However, should I once again fall victim to psychic mold possession, you're burdened with my laundry duties for the next month. You never possess suitable attire, necessitating a laundering. As she moved into the corridor, quickly vanishing into the pulsing shadows, I endeavored to remain unperturbed, proceeding along the main thoroughfare, accompanied solely by the presence trailing me. I hadn't progressed significantly when a perceptible chill descended. Not quantifiable in conventional terms. No frost, no moisture. Rather, it was akin to an affective frigidity, evocative of entering a space recently marred by tragedy. The illumination waned, adopting a tenebrous violet hue. Rounding a bend, I discovered myself within a chamber of unfamiliar origin. The chamber's walls shimmered with mirrored surfaces, not mere reflections, but fluid, undulating visions. Every surface presented an alternate reality. One displayed my childhood self, eyes widened in innocent wonder. Another revealed Zara, adorned in previously unseen ceremonial garb, beaming at an unrecognizable figure. A third depicted a future weathered and marked by battles, yet united on a ravaged world beneath a double sunset. Drawn in, I extended a hand. A firm grasp seized my own, frigid and ethereal, yet intangible. The mirror writhed, its surface alive. Then, it unveiled a horrifying reflection, a gaunt specter of myself, a grotesque flora blooming from my core. Take root, it rasped. Evolve into remembrance. I recoiled, fleeing the chamber, my pulse a frantic drumbeat. This place wasn't just a location, it was infiltrating my very being. Zara returned moments later, her hair glistening with perspiration and a fresh laceration on her cheek. "Are you okay?" she inquired, her gaze sweeping over me. Elaborate on okay. All right. I just experienced a vivid hallucination of myself as a self-aware salad. So that's definitely a first. She nodded somberly. It's examining you, assessing you for what exactly? I can't say for sure. Perhaps compatibility. With what? A cosmic consciousness. I struggle to align with my own thoughts on a regular basis. We didn't laugh, but the pretense offered solace. Reaching the transport bay, the entire bloom pulsed with energy. Not a serene hum, but a sinister mounting frequency, mirroring the agonizing suspense before a speaker explodes. The escape pod, fortunately still docked, appeared ravaged. The hull was marred by scorch marks. A stabilizer melted grotesquely like microwaved cheese. Inside, backup power flickered erratically, mirroring an aged film. Voxel, the AI, delivered a chilling greeting in a languid, distorted voice. "You are not isolated." "Seriously," I muttered, pulling Zara into the co-pilot seat. She trembled, knuckles white on the controls. "We must disengage immediately. Any further bloom interface and the system collapses." A beat of silence stretched, agonizing. Then, a chilling voice, laced with ice, resonated through the comms. It wasn't Zara's possession. It wasn't mine. It defied ownership by any who had ever existed. "You forsook us. You deserted remembrance. Now you shall bear its weight." A vibrant surge of light emanated from the console. Zara shrieked, her form contorting as violet energy tendrils erupted from the controls, ensnaring her arms. Acting on pure instinct, I tore open the panel under her seat, extracted the power core with a violent jerk, and forcefully slammed it into a surge discharger, praying I knew what I was doing. Sparks erupted. The pod shuddered violently. The tentacles receded into nothingness. Zara drew a ragged breath, her voice trembling. It's still there, watching us. I pulled her close, disregarding the escalating alarms blaring from the damaged hull. You're truly not alone now, I declared. The pod shuddered violently as it detached. Adrift, the bloom contorted, imploding like a supernova fading. Through the viewport, my final glimpse was a girl's ethereal face within the organic lattice. Her countenance wasn't wrathful, nor sorrowful, merely disillusioned. Zara extended her hand and sealed the viewport physically. The radiant burst lingered in our wake, yet instinct cautioned me it wouldn't remain so. Dr. Miles observed the holographic schematic jittering over the console, its verdant and crimson matrices quivering like an anxious impulse. The venerable starship Wagtail resonated in the periphery, a characteristic metallic lament, as if decrying the burden of concealed truths within. He raked a hand through his disheveled hair and sighed, a grumbled grievance directed at the cosmos. All right, he muttered to the empty air. Either this map's gone haywire, or someone's desperately signaling for help with proximity beacons. Vera, tightly gripping the alien scanner, a device that resembles a coffee grinder with delusions of grandeur, simply rolled her eyes. I warned you against relying on the obsolete Sora 9 navigation. It's been untouched since the days of dial-up modems. It probably gets its data streamed in via pneumatic tubes. This ancient craft makes wireless toothbrushes seem futuristic, hence the aroma, Miles quipped. The ship shuddered violently. Passengers were thrown off balance. A deafening thud resonated from the Wagtail's hull. Ugh, seriously, what is it this time? Vera exclaimed, almost throwing her scanner onto the console. Did that blasted fusion core decide to have another meltdown episode? Strax tapped his gauntlet, which hummed softly and projected a holographic diagnostic. Disturbingly, it seems we've got unwanted guests aboard. Aboard, as in unauthorized personnel are currently roaming the interior of our vessel. Miles strained, his voice nearly shattering like a boy soprano's. No, they probably just needed sugar. Vera affirmed. Sealed. Bulkheads locked. Strax, metallic limbs whirring, secured hatches with deafening booms. Miles, against the wall, clutched his plasma wrench. Not a weapon, but potentially effective, whispering, "If it's the Galactic Revenue Service again, I swear." A shadow flickered by the main viewport. Witness that, Miles murmured intensely. Nay, yet I sensed an ethereal brush against my very essence, Vera breathed, tightening her grip on her neuropistol. The illumination faltered, surged back, then plunged again, prompting an exasperated, "Seriously?" before settling into a maddening, pulse-inducing flicker. Strax's bioluminescence ignited, transforming him into the galaxy's most unsettling, pulsating beacon. A sibilant whisper, then a sharp crackle, echoed from the corridor, followed by a disembodied voice. "Is this the cafeteria?" 3 heads snapped towards the doorway, weapons poised. There stood a remarkable being, possessing 6 arms, 2 heads, and a remarkably serene expression, clutching what appeared to be a luminous map and a steaming cup of kelp tea. "Oh, my apologies," it chimed with a smile. "You must be the Wagtail." My mistake. I meant to board the Slingshot Envy. It's a common mix-up. Happens more often than you'd think. Vessels appear identical from a low orbital perspective. Inconceivably, I've mistakenly found myself aboard matrimonial barges on numerous occasions. Silence descended. Subsequently, Vera de-escalated, lowering her weapon. You infiltrated a military-grade science vessel ostensibly seeking a midday repast. To be precise, brunch. The promotional material boasted exquisitely solar-poached eggs, Strax. Miles directed. Conduct a scan, no armaments detected, slight dyspepsia, and an unpaid parking citation dating back to 2093. Strax declared, he poses no threat, perhaps a bit scantily clad. A voice retorted, I heard that. And for your information, this tunic is crafted from ethically harvested stardust. Miles sighed wearily, set aside his wrench, and motioned for the visitor to enter. Fine, you've come this far. You may as well join the ranks. Just refrain from touching anything that emits light or growls. Acknowledged, the alien responded, bowing slightly. I am Zifil, a diplomatic envoy, aspiring pastry artist, and currently quite misplaced. Vera arched an eyebrow. Hold on, envoy? Diplomatic? Indeed, Zifil replied, extracting a radiant orb. This communique was intended for the ambassador on the slingshot vessel. I appear to be on the incorrect craft. Suddenly the orb ignited with light and emitted a sharp ping, freezing everyone in their tracks. A warped, echoing voice resonated from within. Attention! This is designated a Level 7 artifact. The recipient is henceforth bound by galactic treaty, obligated to safeguard it until final delivery. Fortune favor you. Avoid expiration. The orb then pulsed violet and went silent. All right, Miles conceded deliberately. So we're now unwitting custodians of an enigmatic relic hurtling through treacherous space, pursued by what might just be sentient mist. And we've got alien diplomats gate-crashing our brunch. Vera, you spaced out. Did I omit anything? Affirmative, the android stated. The fusion core is primed for another imminent surge. A thunderous boom erupted from the engine room. A cacophony of curses filled the air as everyone erupted in simultaneous, multilingual outrage. Ziffel, unfazed, sipped his tea. Believe me, he remarked serenely, I've weathered far graver storms. I once found myself adrift in a wormhole, burdened with a shipment of sentient noodles. Miles massaged his temples in exasperation. I swear, if those noodles materialize, I'm ejecting myself into the void. The ship shuddered violently. Then, a mysterious knock echoed through the vessel. Indeed, a knocking resonated from the outer hull. Strax was perplexed. We are adrift in the vast expanse of space. There logically should exist nothing external. Miles's face drained of color. Unless it constitutes a sentient presence seeking ingress. Vera fixed Zill with a stare. Precisely what did you smuggle on board, really? Zephril admitted hesitantly. I might have unwittingly acquired a trans-dimensional stowaway. He appeared courteous, displayed 3 heads and a ukulele. Miles gazed intensely at the ceiling. I longed for the times when the most dire situation on board involved my out-of-date protein bars. Strax tilted his head inquisitively. Update. Those bars gained consciousness a fortnight prior. The knocking reverberated once more, coupled with a subtle melody. A ukulele. Dreadfully, Miles murmured. Absolutely, Zifil exclaimed cheerfully. The airlock eased open, and the wagtail's engines hummed into a comforting, unwavering cadence. akin to the peaceful pulse of a cherished companion, at long last finding serenity. Miles remained transfixed at the observation window, gazing upon the radiant nebula unfurling before them. A celestial masterpiece splashed with hues of deep violet and brilliant gold. The cosmos twinkled with its typical nonchalance, as though the entire universe were shrugging. Quite a spectacle. Aboard, the ship hummed with a soft, surprisingly homey vibe. Vera, in the galley, was attempting to conjure an appetizing meal from what appeared to be desiccated space lichens. Strax was diligently arranging the ship's implements, emitting a strangely infectious melody reminiscent of the ukulele serenade from just days prior. Sifil, the six-limbed, double-headed diplomatic envoy, reclined luxuriously on the divan, his digits nonchalantly twirling the now dormant Level 7 artifact upon the table. Miles massaged his temples and beamed. He never foresaw his mundane cargo run catapulting him into an extraordinary interstellar maelstrom with relics of old, interdimensional stowaways and alien negotiations. And let's not forget a breathtaking alien beauty whose wardrobe malfunction shattered his preconceptions about limits and reliance. "Philosophizing, Doc?" Vera inquired playfully from the galley, a hint of mirth in her tone. "Or simply reassuring yourself the astronaut cuisine won't drive you mad?" He laughed. "A touch of both, actually. I'm constantly reflecting on our shared ordeals, those near disasters, the enigmatic riddles, and, yes, that unforgettable dress debacle." A suppressed giggle echoed from the periphery. It was Sci-Fi, renowned for his exceptionally keen and subtly sarcastic wit, a surprising trait considering his perplexing form. The dress, he mused. Remarkable how a mere expression of admiration can ignite an existential quandary across the cosmos. Miles arched an eyebrow inquisitively. "You weren't precisely inconspicuous when you vanished behind it, were you?" Sci-Fi simply shrugged, his 6 arms moving in a graceful, albeit slightly disarrayed, manner. "In my world, self-unveiling signifies ultimate vulnerability or utter bewilderment, occasionally coinciding." Vera entered, cradling a hot beverage. Regardless, it shattered the tension far more effectively than any ambassadorial mission. You possess the talent to author a manual, befriending extraterrestrials in 3 simple acts. First, admire their attire. Second, endure the subsequent fallout. Miles chuckled, feeling liberated as he hadn't in ages. "I believe I've evolved significantly since departing Earth's orbit. I once perceived trust as a gradual, guarded acquisition. Now I realize it's also about embracing vulnerability, even amidst insurmountable odds," Vera concurred. "And acknowledging that certain matters transcend mere logic, such as your concept of insurmountable odds, now encompassing archaic artifacts, with the potential to redefine the fundamental laws of physics." Strax advanced. His mechanical limbs chimed subtly. "Preliminary analysis reveals the artifact's energy signature is now stable. It poses no further threat. Indeed, it seems to unlock profound knowledge, possibly unveiling a cosmic map." Miles exhaled, a wave of relief washing over him. "A key, you say? Well, it seems the universe relishes a good enigma. Regarding the enigmatic fog that trailed us, any updates?" Strax's optics flickered. Scans reveal it was a sentient quantum mist, peculiar yet benign. It has since withdrawn into a proximate wormhole, likely unimpressed by our spectacle. "Serves it right," Vera grumbled, ladling herself a portion of that questionable space lichen stew. The wagtail's atmosphere remained serene, yet beneath resided the deep stillness that trails a tempest, a fragile tranquility where inquiries persisted. But the imminent dangers had receded. Miles pivoted toward the viewport, his image blending into the distant constellations. He mused over the extraterrestrial woman, her pointed ears shimmering in the luminescence, her audacious choice to shatter the boundaries between them with a singular, unforeseen gesture. It transcended a mere garment. It embodied connection amidst a boundless, apathetic universe. He had undergone a profound metamorphosis. The man, formerly tethered to assurance, now welcomed uncertainty. Once meticulously calculating each utterance, he now luxuriated in implicit communication. Space ceased to be a desolate, infinite emptiness, transforming into a realm where unforeseen bonds flourished, and where even the most peculiar encounters, such as praise and divestment, possessed the power to reshape existence. Captain Vera murmured, snapping him from his thoughts. "Coming. I'd wager this stew is the sanest thing we'll face for a good while." Miles grinned, a real unwavering smile hinting at newfound peace and optimism. "After you." Behind them, the artifact shimmered faintly. The wagtail sailed on, its crew eternally marked, united by camaraderie, wit, and a voyage into the vast cosmos. If you made it through alien fungi, rom-com AI, and diplomatic brunches, like, share, and tell us what moment broke you.